Let me help you. You call a black woman in word, call me that.
No, call me that.
I dare you to do it, and I swear for God, I'll make you taste the ancestors.
Me too.
You a coward.
Stand up. Oh, hell yeah. Dr. Candace Matthews and Quanell X pull up on this racist lawyer named Michael Phillips for using the N-word. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Stand Up. I might just have to start every day's show with that. It really fired me up. Those two people are doing exactly what we are called to do by those same ancestors. Standing up, getting in good trouble. How do you think we got here? Standing up for somebody else, for somebody who's been wrong, for a community of people who've been marginalized in some way, for anybody, for yourself, for the critters in nature, standing up for something, giving you the purpose to get through the day and maybe even get through with some success, something to celebrate, which is exactly what I have today because woo-hoo-hoo-hoo, we won the 2 board seats that were open at the Clarkstown Board of Education right here in Rockland County, New York. And I could not be more proud of the amazing group of people I have gotten to know and work with in this community. I am super emotional and just absolutely amped over this win. Is a big deal, a really big deal for us. It's been a long time coming, a long journey, and so we're very happy to get these 2 seats back. We don't have the majority of the board, but this is still a massive, massive win. And so I'm celebrating that today, and I'm also celebrating the fact that my 21-year-old Ava is graduating from college today. She did 3 years of college, 1 year at Ithaca, 2 years then at FIT. She's graduating today with her associate's degree in digital media studies, and then she's going to be moving to Italy for a year. So it's a really exciting time for my daughters, both of my daughters. Julia graduating high school and going off to the University of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And what about me? I'll be here, empty nest, alone in the house, and I have got some plans to invite you over, so stay tuned. We're going to party. Actually, the one thing I definitely know I'm doing is making new friends in my community, making more friends, hosting more events, connecting people. I have absolutely loved what has happened organically through the podcast as I left SiriusXM and through the pandemic and lockdown, and now over 6 years in, and I am as fired up as I have ever been. That is where I'm at, and that is where I want to stay and plan to be. So looking forward to connecting with you on Thursday night at the Hangout. That's tomorrow night to talk about it all, and there is a lot to talk about today. But that is my opener, and I hope it gets you up and cheering, or at least a little bit inspired, maybe a little bit something, huh? Do you feel anything? Is there anything left in there? Hello? I know we're all struggling. It's crazy. The world is crazy. Everybody is way more angst, way more worried about so many more things. For the most part, it is collective. We are on this journey together. I'm right here with you trying to figure it out. So thank you very much for being here with me, for helping me get through all of my own personal struggles and dramas while we all get together through this bizarre and unrecognizable place and time that we are all living through together. And together does a lot of the lifting there, fighting all the way through it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me and my work here. If you're not a paid subscriber, member of our community, sign up now, patreon.com. Meet more people that want to get in good trouble with you. All right, let's get to today's headlines and clips. It's time for what we call the shit show. Hit it, John Carroll.
It's Pete's headlines and clip show. Get in on the shit show.
Yeah, I love that. All right, let's check in on the Ebola outbreak. That's scary. Global health officials warning yesterday the number of people infected in an Ebola outbreak in Central Africa could be much higher than reported, and that the outbreak could last for months. The suspected death toll stood Tuesday at more than 130 people. The latest from the San Diego shooting at that mosque. The teenagers who killed 3 people at the San Diego mosque met online, shared a broad hatred toward different religions and races. FBI spokesman said yesterday during a news conference that authorities had uncovered writings by the suspects. Authorities declined to specify which ideologies or views were expressed by the shooters. I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing, but we can make arguments as to why it should be made public as well, but particularly careful as how it's platformed. Authorities have also recovered 30 firearms and a crossbow from 2 residents searched in the connection to the investigation. Apparently they live streamed it, and one of them begged the other one to kill him. It's a goddamn nightmare. Horrific situation at that shooting. Also very American, unfortunately. The Pentagon's policy chief announced Monday that the United States will suspend its involvement in a joint body that coordinates military consultation with who? Canada. Oh, all right. They appointed a Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's address to the World Economic Forum earlier this year as a reason for that. So that seems like a pretty serious breakdown. I want to learn more about that. The New York Times Monday accused the Defense Department of violating the First Amendment by requiring journalists to have an official escort at all times when visiting the Pentagon. The suit, filed in the U.S. District Court in Washington the second time the newspaper has sued the Trump administration's restrictions on reporters who cover the military complex, and the first suit was a success, so I'm not sure it's not a bad idea to imagine this one will be as well. Also on Monday, our Gasolini of a president moved ahead with plans to allow 10,000 more white South Africans into the United States as refugees. Loves the whites, even as the program remains closed off to people from every other country in the world. So we're just importing more racist white South Africans because of the white genocide that they believe is an actual thing. I'll never forget when some producer at SiriusXM, what was his name? I would say it if I could remember it. He produced Andrew Wilkow's show. And he was the first person to talk to me about white genocide and that he believed in it. Ian was his name. I'll have to look it up. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said Monday that the Supreme Court risks being seen as political in the wake of major voting rights decisions. You think, Justice Jackson? You think that maybe it's a tempered statement? She knows. And let's see. The Senate voted yesterday to confirm a new ambassador to Iceland, who used to be the head of the IRS. And his joke about making the country a state infuriated Icelanders. Well, now he is their ambassador. That's right. The former Republican congressman from Missouri apologized during his confirmation hearing in February for joking about making Iceland the 52nd state, but he still got the job, and I bet they haven't forgotten. And as the weekend wrapped up, apparently, we found out that Trump used his social media platform to promote an artificial intelligence-generated image of him walking alongside a handcuffed space alien. I think I played a joke of that. No one seems to know why, although it was yet another reminder of just how weird our current political conditions have become. That is Steve Bannon at MadOutBlog. Love him, and I read his mini report every day, every night, and it's a great source of news I often reference here on the news segment, The Headlines. The IRS will drop its audits of Trump and his family. According to the New York Times, the Justice Department revealed that his family, him, and his businesses are going to be shielded from being investigated or prosecuted over their taxes. Oh, wait, the Justice Department run by his personal lawyer, the acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who got assaulted verbally at a hearing yesterday on Capitol Hill by Democratic senators. Anyway, this provision signed by Todd Blanche quietly posted on the department's website, part of an extraordinary new agreement the president struck with his own administrations to settle his lawsuit against the IRS, where officials have mapped out a plan to fight Trump's claims. More at the New York Times, but protection from audit could be quite beneficial for him, because in 2024, the New York Times found that a loss in an IRS audit could cost him more than $100 million. Also part of the deal is a $1.8 billion compensation slush fund, as you know, for people who claim to have been the target of politically motivated prosecutions. That who wouldn't try to get that money? It's going right to him and his friends, by the way, or to fund his army or some nonsense. All right, well, the Cannes Film Fest apparently is underway, so you can expect to see headlines about that. I don't have any headlines from it. I'm just looking through my notes here, and I think that is all I've got for you in headlines. Let's get to some of the clips I gathered from yesterday. including just a little bit longer version, but not the full thing, of those activists, Quanell X and Candace Matthews, who I think are both lawyers. The story is a Texas lawyer used racial slurs in court. He was held in contempt by the judge. He received a suspended sentence. The lawyer claimed that the comments were not intended to be derogatory, but the judge disagreed with him in his use of the N-word. And these black attorney and activists publicly confronted the lawyer, accusing him of intimidation. Again, this is in a Texas courtroom, and it's Brazoria County Attorney Michael Phillips who is being confronted here. And he doesn't say a word. His lips are tightly pursed. France Pants sent the emoji of the yellow face with the line just straight across to represent his tightly pursed lips.
Yeah, that's your ass.
So you the one
I
like
want
saying
you
that
the
word,
one
right?
like call people niggas and shit.
You gonna
call
me a
nigga. Call me one.
I bet you won't call in front of a black man like
I bet
that.
you won't call
In
me
fact,
no
let
nigga.
Let me help you. You call a black woman in the word, call me that.
No, call me that.
I dare you to do it, and I swear for God, I'll make you taste the ancestors.
Me too.
You a coward. Call
Why would
that
you
black
do that?
woman the N-word. You a real coward,
Why
man.
would you
We'll
do
kiss you
that?
inside.
No, go ahead.
Go right ahead.
Go ahead.
I guarantee you
Come
wouldn't
on.
do it in front of me.
Come on.
I know. In fact, I know you won't. Say the N-word in front of me.
Come on. Go on in there.
And I give you a taste everything for the ancestors.
Go on in
Say
there.
it. Say it in front of me. I dare you to say it. What is your name? It's Quanell X, but you'll learn it real well today.
Yeah.
Say it. I bet you won't say N-word in my face. See, you talk to black women like that by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You intimidate black women by themselves. But a black man, you won't open your goddamn mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I dare you to say it.
Mm-hmm. That hearing aid.
I dare you to say it.
Mm-hmm. With that hearing aid in your ear and shit. Get your old ass in there. Run around here with your bald head ass, you old spotted liver face looking bitch. But I ain't playing with you.
Oh, that last Dyson slice by Candace was so funny, with your hearing aid and your bald ass and your something skin. God, it was so satisfying. I really enjoyed that. Obviously, I don't know. Hopefully you did as well. All right. Well, what's next? Let's get to yesterday. It was Capitol Hill. We saw the American Admiral Brad Cooper testifying yesterday. He's the CENTCOM commander, and he's been there through, I think, 3 administrations, okay? He's 58-year-old guy. He's won all kinds of medals on his chest, and now he works for Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, who said, as you know, quote, "No quarter, no mercy for our enemies," at a Pentagon press briefing regarding the U.S. war with Iran. And, of course, that phrase is historically and legally understood to mean that if an attacking military force refuses to accept, enemy surrenders and instead will kill surrendering combatants. And when you say that, it means that is how our military members would be treated if they were captured, etc. It is commonly known in all military leadership across the world. That is not something that you say, even if it's something that you practice. It's not something you generally say out loud, which is why he got unloaded on by 2 Democrats who had both served, 2 tough guys, Jason Crow and Seth Moulton. Let him have it, and I'm going to let you have it. Now, by that, I mean I'm going to let you have I'm just going to play the audio. Here's Congressman Jason Crow.
That is, the law of war manual state that it is prohibited to declare that no quarter be given.
It prohibits a large number of things.
No, I've asked you.
I will follow.
I just read the provision to you. I just literally read the provision to you. Does it prohibit you or anyone else from declaring that no quarter be given? I just read it to you.
We will follow everything that's in the law.
Answer the question, Admiral Cooper. You have tens of thousands of service members under your command.
And
I literally just read a provision from the law of war manual, our own manual. Will you not just say what I just read to you?
I will say that we will follow the law of armed conflict to the T.
This is just unbelievable to me.
I find the same thing, sir.
This is just unbelievable to me.
We will follow the law of armed conflict very calmly.
You have tens of thousands of service members under your command. I literally, verbatim, just read a provision from our own law of war manual, and you will refuse to say what that provision says. Will you agree that it is prohibited under our own manual that you and all the people under your command are obligated to follow to declare that no quarter be given?
I will agree, consistent with my constitutional responsibility, to follow the law of armed conflict to the T. And I expect everyone working for me to do that.
This is not leadership. This is not leadership. To not be able to say something as basic. The people, the men and women who we represent, who are under your command, deserve leadership.
Mr. Chairman, I object. This is a personal attack. This is unfair. And appreciate the Admiral very much as a Navy dad.
This is well within the purview. This is well within the purview of my questioning.
If I may.
Gentleman's time. I
reclaim my time. Can I reclaim some additional time?
I'm going to give you some extra time. Go ahead.
It's our job to make sure the law is being followed. That is literally the obligation of this Congress. I read to you a provision of our own law of war manual, and all I want you to say is what the provision says. That it is prohibited, this is the title, this is what the title says, to declare that no quarter be given.
I will follow the law to the T and expect everyone to do the same.
This is extremely disappointing. Our service members deserve far better than this. I yield back.
Woo! Congressman Jason Crow, whoever that guy, that Republican was, who interrupted him, by the way, he said, as a Navy dad, I'm pretty sure.
As a Navy dad, I would like him to stop. Well, my cousin was in the National Guard. Ugh.
All right. Well, I like that. I also like this from Congressman Seth Moulton, who also served, and I believe is a combat vet.
General Cooper, you keep using the term significantly degraded. Last summer, we were told that Iran's nuclear weapons program was obliterated. Can you clarify the distinction between obliterated and significantly degraded?
Congressman, again, I think appropriate to talk about anything regarding the Iranian nuclear program.
No, I'm not asking you to talk about the Iran nuclear program. I'm asking you to talk about English language. What's the difference between obliterated and significantly degraded? Are they the same?
Congressman, anything regarding the nuclear program.
I'm not asking you to talk about the nuclear program, Admiral. I'm asking you to answer a question that applies to a lot of things beyond the nuclear program. You've also said that their ballistic missile program was significantly degraded. What does that mean?
The specific numbers are best, as you know from your own.
But President Trump's own national security strategy, which he signed in December, 5 months ago, used the exact same phrase, significantly degraded. So if this was true back then, 5 months ago, then why did we start this war? Was he lying to us then?
Congressman, from a military perspective, anything regarding
Admiral, are you familiar with General Westmoreland?
I'm very familiar, Congressman.
He's well known for talking about body counts. Now, when I think about you in this war, I always think about how you always got up there and would say everything's going according to plan. So let me just ask, Admiral, where was closing the strait in the plan?
I'm happy to discuss the specific operational aspects.
But did you just not anticipate that? Did you not think that Iran could do that? Or was that part of the plan here?
Congressman,
for 250 years, the Navy has kept sea lanes open and free. Under every previous president, the Strait of Hormuz has been open. So why is it closed under your watch?
Congressman, I've traveled through the Strait of Hormuz probably 100 times. I'm intimately familiar with it as a combatant commander.
So why is it closed? If you're so familiar with it, did you not anticipate that Iran might
answer the question? If I may answer with respect, with all due respect. My responsibility as a combatant commander is to lay out all the options, present those to the Secretary and the President. They make policy-level decisions.
So you presented
the operational aspect.
So, Admiral, you presented the reality that Iran might close the strait to the President and the Secretary of Defense.
Anything that I discuss with respect to
okay, well, let's go back to the plan. Where was begging China for help opening the strait part of the plan?
All right, it went on like that. You should watch the whole thing. Did that repeat itself? I think I cut it right. Okay. Wow. I thought that was pretty dramatic yesterday. I left the pauses in there because I wanted to make sure you could feel what you could see. Watching it's even more powerful. I want to follow up on that. I might watch more of that today. That's why I like to do this segment, because it helps me realize what I might want to turn to page 2 on, take a deeper dive on, learn more about, whether it be an issue in the news or some other idea or policy we're talking about here with one of our favorite guest experts. All right, let's get to the Cannes Film Festival, where Sebastian Stan, the American actor who played Donald Trump in a movie about Donald Trump called The Apprentice and won a lot of accolades for it, has also been very outspoken critic of our embarrassing, villainous president. And so yesterday, I don't know what happened just before, but there was some laughter about a question. Maybe it was nervous laughter, or maybe it wasn't. But clearly, Sebastian Stan did not want to have anybody be confused about where he stood on any of this. And the audio is not great, but I like what I feel was kind of gravitas of this statement.
It's just not a laughing matter, to be honest. It isn't. You know, it's, I think we're in a really, really bad place. I really do. And to be honest with you, it's like when you're looking at what's happening, right, which is, if we're talking about the consolidation of the media, censorship, the threats, the supposed lawsuits that seemingly never end but don't actually go anywhere, you know, the writing was on the wall. We encountered all that with the movie, you know, to the point where we were 3 days before the festival unsure if the movie was going to play at the festival. So, you know, it's, maybe people are paying attention more to that film. I think it will stand the test of time for that, but we went through all of it.
He was talking about the film that he did and the controversy around it. And also, I think, making the point that we've all made that after we knew exactly who this guy was before the first time he ran for president. We knew exactly who he was, and we learned a whole hell of a lot more about who he would be as president, and yet we still reelected him. So it's not funny. It's sad and pathetic, and we need to see it that way at all times. You noticed in the headlines I didn't have the roundup of other elections, pretty well focused on our school board, but wherever you are, there were elections obviously all over the country, including in Kentucky, where Thomas Massie lost his primary because he fought for the Epstein victims and fought back against Trump, even though he voted with him 90% of the time. Massie lost. Here he is at his victory rally trying to stay classy-ish.
All right. Listen. I would have come out sooner, but I had to call my opponent and concede, and it took a while to find Ed Galrein in Tel Aviv. I did get the call through, though. I have called and conceded the race. We've been honorable the whole time, and we're going to stay that way.
All right, there you go. Apparently his opponent was getting a lot of money from the Israeli lobby, AIPAC, etc. All right, so let's now finally get to, I think I got Jimmy Kimmel for you. Even though it's Colbert's last week, I'll catch up on those shows at some point. That one hits a little close to home for me, just so, I don't know why it's not really relevant, but a lot of those people that work there now, I worked with for 6 years, and I got to be pretty close with, so I'm rooting for all of them for whatever's next to be better than whatever they did before. But that's a tough act, or 20 years to follow. Anyway, I got this clip of Kimmel that starts with Blob the Builder's voice. So sorry about that, but it's pretty relevant to what Kimmel says right after. It's very brief. Here it is.
Look, everyone tells me it's unpopular, but I think it's very popular. Okay.
That right there, that 5-second moment is all you need to know about this man. Everyone tells me it's unpopular, but I think it's popular. It's about as stupid a sentence as I have ever heard in my life. It's people... Everyone loves the hantavirus. If they didn't, why would they get it? Trump has no exit strategy for Iran. He only has one idea for getting out of a war, and sadly, his podiatrist is dead. And then we have what may well be the most brazenly corrupt move by any president ever. Back in January, Trump became the first sitting U.S. president to sue his own government. He sued all of us because somebody at the IRS leaked the tax returns he'd been promising to show us for the past 11 years. For that, he demanded $10 billion. And guess who gets to decide whether we pay that or not? Him, through his Justice Department. This is the legal equivalent of sitting on your hand until it goes to sleep, so it feels like a stranger is touching you when you masturbate. You've done that, right, Guillermo?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Give it a try.
I don't think so.
Just sit on your hands for a little while.
All right. One or two.
So the judge raised doubts about whether this lawsuit was even legal, but fortunately for us, both sides, which were the same side, came to a settlement. The president graciously agreed to drop the lawsuit against himself in exchange for an apology and a fund worth $1.776 billion that he can use to pay anyone for anything at all, including the loons who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Another part of the settlement says the IRS is forever barred and precluded from investigating claims against Trump or members of his family for past unpaid taxes and possibly even future ones, too. And that, folks, is what they call the art of the deal.
Yes. And then he threw to another clip, so I cut it off. But Kimmel last night. All right. There you have it. Your headlines and your clips and a big win for us last night at the Board of Education. Feeling great about that and more. A lot. Very grateful. Happy to have you here. Here's my conversation with our good friend Bill B. in D.C. Follow him on Blue Sky. If you see him, if you're in Washington, D.C., look him up. Here we go. Bill, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Lots that I want to discuss with you. First of all, how's everything in D.C. in terms of all of the statues being built to pay tribute and orders being given by dear leader? What about the pool, the National Mall? That seems like a pretty big controversial. How's that going?
It's just so gross. I mean, basically what these guys are doing is just running roughshod over all of there's some commissions who decide on these things. There are policies and there are, normally opportunities, which by the way are required by law for there to be a review of all these things. And the Trump people are just running roughshod over all of that as fast as they can. They're moving money illegally, by the way, from things like national park permit fees to pay for things. And they're just saying, fuck it, we're going to run wild until someone stops us. It's sort of a microcosm of what they're doing in the country in general.
I mean, I wonder how all of that is paid attention to and how it's seen, especially the ballroom ambitions and taking down the East Wing and this idea for an arch that would overlook Arlington of all places, which I thought might be sacred, but we know it's not to him, obviously.
They've actually already started work on that.
On the arch? Oh, that's interesting and terrible.
That circle that it's in has already been roped off and fenced off, and they are completely illegally starting work there.
I thought we saw Doug Burgum the other day say it had not been approved. He's the secretary.
That's right, because he is a liar just like his boss is.
Oh, that's shocking.
It has not been approved, by the way, by anybody. But the White House is pushing ahead with preparation work because they'll just continue to go ahead until someone stops them.
Oh, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. If anybody has any questions for Bill in the chat on any issues you want to talk about, let me know. But I have a whole agenda here, as I always do. So I got to get you to weigh in on the slush fund, $1.7, almost $8 billion, and everybody's talking about it. It seems like the greatest grift, not only of this administration, but potentially ever by any president, the greatest theft of American taxpayer money. I mean, it's being called all kinds of things. How are you interpreting it, seeing it, feeling about it?
Well, I mean, that's just flat out true. It's taking $1.7 billion of our tax money that you paid, I paid, everybody paid, and basically giving it to the friends of the president. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. He was supposed to go in front of a judge this week, I believe, and they short-circuited that process because the judge would have said, you can't do this. So instead, they just didn't show up for court. They just blew off the hearing and then just had the DOJ say, yeah, we're writing a check for $1.776 billion, by the way. It's the 1776 fund, which people should not ignore the fact that they're claiming that they have this number set up because there's a certain amount of need, when obviously the number is purely symbolic. Also, this money is going to be under the control of like 5 Trump goons with almost no oversight. They can give it to whoever they want to. They'll probably end up giving most of it to Trump. It's just a completely obvious grift. And, in the end, I think, this will be later on, everyone will say, I can't believe this happened. But right now, the grift is in full swing.
One of the concerns on serious people are saying it is that Trump is going to use this money to pay his own army, and specifically those people who sacked the Capitol in your town, our nation's capital, on January 6th. And a lot of people are insinuating those people are somehow going to get paid, or not only did they get pardoned, but now they're going to get rewarded as well. Some of them have obviously committed other crimes, including against children, sex crimes against children, several of those pardoned. No big deal, though, in that case. What do you make of that theory that he's going to use it for his own personal little army to protect him so he can stay in the White House in the basement that he's building forever?
Right. I mean, I could see it, but I mean, let's be honest. Donald Trump's main motivation is not anything other than complete greed. He won't be able to help himself but steal the money. Yeah. They'll throw pennies at people who were January 6th people. But also, if you really are going to overthrow the government, those clowns are not the people that you're going to depend on to overthrow the government. You're going to try to suborn part of the national security state or the military to do that. So I'm not super concerned that they're going to use these folks because these folks got their ass kicked by a bunch of DC cops with nightclubs, right? Like this is not the army that's going to seize the building again. What it'll come down to is that, he'll use the money to pay people off to, probably to challenge some elections, that sort of thing. But if he's looking for a military coup, there's far more effective tools at hand.
Do you think that the settlement, the $1.776 billion that he just got, will be messaged by Democrats, progressives, and others in a way that will damage him? Because the way I see it, people might not quite understand what he did. Maybe it's a one-day story. How does this resonate in November?
Well, it depends on how well Democrats use it. I mean, but these guys they're leaking from so many holes in the ship. It's hard to say which hole is going to do it. Iran's killing them. The prices are killing them. Gas prices are killing them. All the grifty stuff hurts them. I mean, if you look at Texas today, Trump just endorsed Ken Paxton.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Who is an impeached, indicted, wife-cheating piece of shit. And the markets to the Kalshi and Poly market today are saying the Tallarico is in the lead. So, these guys are just – they have absolutely no – they're just – whether this is it or it's something else, who knows. I think the general gist is Trump is acting as if he wants to lose, by the way. I mean, that's the way it feels to me. This certainly is not going to help his prospects in any way.
Yeah, I hope you're right. You mentioned the betting markets, Poly market, Kalshi, and while we wish they didn't exist and were illegal, you give credence to them. I saw you sharing on Blue Sky at Bill Bean DC their statistics or their odds. They share their odds. You think that the odds that those betting markets make they're not scientific. How are they made? Because we shouldn't be giving too much credit to polls or polling, much less these betting markets, should we?
I mean, I think that we should give a lot of credence to good polling, but we should give credence to good polling en masse, not one individual poll.
Right, sure.
It's harder to poll people. You know this better than I do. It's just difficult to poll people in this current world. I look at Kalshi and Poly market as just to see where people with money who are willing to bet it are making their judgment. And I see it as indicative, but definitely not something that I would hang a prediction of an election on.
All right, let's talk about war. I always love talking about foreign policy, national security with you. First of all, yesterday there was an attack on a mosque. 3 people were killed, including the security guard. Someone set up a GoFundMe for his family. It's got $1 million already, which is amazing. But I wanted to ask you, it feels like that story did not go anywhere. It feels like Republicans and Trump, maybe I missed it, didn't mention anything about that. When people are attacked at their house of worship, whether it be a church, a mosque, or a synagogue or any other house of worship, you would think that the federal government, the head of the FBI and others would come out and say stuff. And maybe they did and I missed it, but it feels like that story didn't go anywhere, and it probably should have, because those are well, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, my thoughts on it are that two screwed up, bizarre, weird, fascist, neo-accelerationist Nazi kids.
Oh, did they have like a manifesto or any evidence?
Yeah, they found their writings, and it's all this slop from all these gross, Nazis on the internet.
Oh, really?
But obviously these kids are just super screwed up and have gigantic issues, and we have ubiquitous guns. So they picked a target. I don't think that it being a mosque or would have mattered a mosque or a synagogue or whatever. This happens in America all the time. We have so many guns. We have so many outlets, or should say inputs to people of weird and violent things, that this is going to happen. I do think that there was concern expressed politically by both parties about this. But let's be honest. We're in the United States post 9/11, and an attack on a mosque gets less emotion and feeling and reaction than an attack on a synagogue or a church does.
Yeah, that's what I was going to actually say.
And that's not. There's no. I think an attack on any one of the above is awful, or a school or anything else is awful. Any attack is awful. But in the United States, particularly under this administration, there's less sympathy. Let's be blunt about it.
I want to ask you about the wars now. First of all, Russia-Ukraine. Last week, hard to keep track, of course, but I saw reports that Kiev suffered one of the worst attacks of the war in Kiev, in maybe an apartment or something. But what about how closely are you following it as usual, and what do you think of what's happening there right now? Because I think the Ukrainians responded and attacked Moscow.
They sure did. I mean, Moscow had its worst attacks since the war began. I think something like 250 flights were not able to come out of Sheremetyevo Airport, which is their main airport. They had to cut down their parade, their May Day parade.
Right.
Because of, I think we talked about this, that, they literally had to cut their biggest military and political parade of the year down almost to nothing, because the Ukrainians are regularly hitting Moscow. And Moscow is the most well-protected place in Russia by far. The fact is that Russia's size, which used to be a great advantage in the pre-drone years, is now a negative, because they can't control their borders against drones. They just can't. And there's so much space and there's so much room that the Ukrainians can figure out how to get drones virtually anywhere that their drones have the range to reach. And Ukraine right now is hitting things all the way up to the Ural Mountains. They are hitting strategic targets like oil refining and pipelines and trains. That's at the long distance. On the medium distance, they're making it incredibly hard for Russia to support its troops in the Crimea and the Zaporizhzhia in the south. Ukraine has become the world's greatest drone power. And the Russians are, at this point, not anymore taking territory. They are slowly starting to lose territory. I think where we're going is a situation in which Russia will just not be able to supply its troops in significant parts of the front. And when that becomes a thing that goes on for a little while, guys are going to start to walk away. If you can't eat, you can't survive, you can't function, you can't get ammunition, you can't get water, you can't get taken home or taken to a hospital if you get wounded, then eventually troops just don't stay. And I think that Ukraine right now is definitely on track to win this war. Now, what the winning looks like may not be, the end of World War II, but for Russia, Russia loses if it cannot conquer Ukraine. And right now, Russia really, it looks farther and farther and farther and farther away from doing that. And it's beginning to look sketchy for it to hold on to the terrain it has. And once it starts losing territory, I think the war's effectively over at that point. I think Putin's position becomes untenable, and he will be forced to make some sort of deal. And once he makes a deal for the Russian, leadership, the people in the ruling class there, once he's lost that war, there's no reason to keep him around. So I do think that the what's happening with drones has really changed the war, where Ukraine is just bootstrapping its way to a victory over a country 3 times its size.
It's interesting that Russia, it's interesting that the U.S. went to war in Vietnam and lost, and Russia went to war in Afghanistan and lost, and the U.S. went to war in Afghanistan and Iraq and lost, and Russia went to war in Ukraine and is losing, and the United States went to war in Iran and is losing. So like the two, quote, superpowers militarily in the world for the previous generation for sure, they keep losing, and it seems like the main reason is hubris, and the public doesn't understand always why we lose. But when it comes to Iran or any of these other instances I gave, it often has to do with motivation, interests, and asymmetric warfare. You mentioned the drones and the technology in the case of Ukraine, which is a huge thing. But what about in Iran, where we are now losing? And I say losing definitively because before Trump and Bibi started the war, the Strait of Hormuz was open and the world economy wasn't shaking. And now it has been since the beginning. And it would seem that every world leader should have known this would happen and probably did. Every president, U.S. president did. What do you make of us continuing to lose?
So I would say that you need to make a distinction between an asymmetric war, an actual asymmetric war, versus a stand-up peer-to-peer combat, a stand-up fight. The U.S., when we attacked Iraq, in the Bush administration, that was a stand-up fight. So it also was in the first Bush administration, the first time we went to war in Iraq. We kicked the shit out of them. It was not even close. Where it changes is when you decide to occupy a country and try to rule it. Now, where the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, gets really interesting is that was a stand-up fight. It's not an asymmetric war. There are battle lines. There is, the parts that Russia controls. There's not an insurgency to speak of. This is a full-on toe-to-toe.
Hold on just for a second.
Fight.
I hear you.
Except that what conventional warfare looks like has changed.
Right. It's that matters so much because if you have traditional military seafaring vessels and other giant slow-moving targets and tanks and just about everything else, right. and the other team is ahead of you with tiny little flying robots that can blow up those slow-moving, easy-to-find targets, including in the water, then
right.
But it still seems asymmetric because they have so many more men, so many more powerful weapons, and yet they're losing. It would seem.
It's an asymmetric war in the sense of what capabilities are brought to bear. But remember that Ukraine gets supported by gigantic amounts of military materiel from the West. It's supported by gigantic amounts of intelligence and surveillance and reconnaissance, satellites, everything else. There is a gigantic production of materiel and training that goes into these wars. And the war in Ukraine really has front lines. Now, so it's a war of production, it's a war of training, it's a war of technology. The war in Afghanistan was definitely none of those things.
Yeah.
It was IEDs, people mixing in the population, fighting, etc. Those wars, why don't we call them capital A asymmetric wars, a colonial power in effect trying to control a weaker power. Yes, we lose those wars because we are not willing to send in 1 million men and keep them there for 20 years. Right. The cost benefit means nothing. It doesn't work out. And so it never happens. It doesn't mean that a larger country could win an asymmetric war. They could. But the cost doesn't make sense. And political cost goes into this as well, right? Now, the small A asymmetric war like you see in Ukraine, that is where a smaller power is leveraging its smarts, its foreign aid, everything else it has to work with to beat someone bigger, which is what's happening to Russia. Iran, that's a different thing too, because what we're really fighting for in Iran or with Iran is control of the Straits of Hormuz. And so the asymmetry in that war is that Iran is a big mountainous country and we can't kill off all of their missiles, all of their mining, all of their boating that can close the strait, the narrow strait, where 20% of the world's LNG and oil goes through. So the asymmetry there is strategic. Iran just needs to stick it in the fight and just keep obstructing that strait, and it wins. And that's where the Trump administration is so incredibly stupid, because they never figured out that, like, we know, like, there's the parable of the fox and the hedgehog. The fox needs to know many, many things. The hedgehog only needs to know that it's got a tail full of thorns on it, or spines on it.
Right.
And in Iran's case, they just need to keep control of the strait. They need to degrade our ability to use it, to get through it, to get oil through it. And all they have to do is do that one thing. So asymmetry, yes, but not the asymmetry of Vietnam, not the asymmetry of Afghanistan, and frankly, not even the asymmetry of the war in Ukraine. This is a very weird war, because no countries, particularly hegemons, usually do something this fucking stupid of putting themselves, where the United States has been put by Trump, into a position of starting a war to defend something that it can't really defend.
We have heard from the DEI Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. He has said all kinds of crazy things, and I guess one of the worst parts about it is his chairman of the Joint Chiefs, as well as the commander of all the militaries at CENTCOM, who is testifying on Capitol Hill, have to answer for the things that he has said and done, and they can't. And they look weak. But they look weak anyway, because they're trying to fight. They're trying to win a fight that they can't win, and should know better. And they're not being transparent with policymakers, including two veterans, Jason Crow and Seth Moulton, who gave him some tough questions today. Admiral Cooper testified, and I think embarrassed himself. I think this guy Dan Kane is embarrassment as well. So what do you make of the military's handling of this, and military leadership's testimony, and having to answer to Pete Hegseth in his terrible, terrible war?
Yeah, one of the things today was something about, the strikes that we're doing on boats in the Atlantic and the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And the congressman was basically like, this is illegal. And this admiral is standing there kind of floundering, not knowing what to say.
Yeah.
The reality is the military is only going to be as good as the people leading it from the executive branch. And these guys are caught between a rock and a hard place, because they're being given orders. And if they really disagree with those orders, the only thing they can do is quit. That's a big deal. Should be a big deal. If they start saying, fuck it,
they could contradict their leadership openly and publicly.
But here is the dilemma they have. Their dilemma is that in a normal American political situation, when the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said the president's breaking the law, fuck it, I'm out of here, that would probably get the president impeached and thrown out of office. We have a Republican Congress and Senate that are not willing to go there.
Right.
And so the normal chain of responsibility is broken. And so what you do is you get guys like Dan Kane saying, look, if I leave, they're going to get some MAGA whack job in here to do this job, and it's going to be even worse. And so what the Trump people have done, again, like they always do the dumbest thing for the long run, is they're breaking down the sense of responsibility and the connection between the military and the executive branch and the government. And I can tell you, a lot of these guys in this military loathe this whole situation. They hate it because they feel like they're caught in between their duty, the law, and morality. And they aren't sure which way to jump. And I will tell you that the United States has always been very, very good, very, very astute about being careful about its civil-military relations. What you're seeing right now, and you saw it on the Hill today, the Democrats who really question these guys are great because they're underlining this. Like, it's not, you can't let this sort of just go. You can't just let it sort of happen. You have to make it clear that you see the damage being done to civil-military relations. And I think that you're going to see, when all is said and done, the people going in front of Congress and being the most honest are going to be these admirals and generals who were put in these positions they're in today.
Don't you think that the price of the only thing that matters is gas and energy, and how that affects everything between now and November more than anything else? And is it any end in sight with this war? And even if this war, quote, ended yesterday, would not these ripple effects continue in terms of how energy production and shipment works?
Sure. I mean, energy prices are going to stay high to the end of the year, no question.
Imagine if you see 6, like they're seeing the number 7 in California, and they're seeing 6 in other places. It just that number matters so much on election day. The number, that first number, 5, 6, and now 7, or God, imagine more.
Sure. I mean, it is a really weird place we're in that this is happening, that you've got prices just ratcheting and ratcheting and ratcheting. And by the way, it hits everything like food, for instance, because diesel's going way up. And Trump and his cronies are kind of like, well, this is worth it. If you want to be an empire, that's what you have to do. Or Trump says, I don't care at all about this. I think that if the war ends tomorrow and things get a little better, it'll help them a little bit. But the ultimate idea that these guys are terrible on things like inflation, that's not going away. And, prices normally rise between now and the end of August by 40 cents in a normal year.
In a normal year because of demand.
Right. And what we're seeing now is effects on, for instance, tourism. Like tourism is definitely down.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to drive when crossing a friend of mine was talking about driving to California from DC. He figured out it will cost him double the gas price to drive across the country than it would have before. It would have been about $500. Now it's going to be about $1,000.
And jet fuel is also
that's just for his car.
Yeah, I'm saying, but if you wanted to fly, I mean, airline prices. I mean, put a fucking airline out of business.
I'm flying to Belgium in late October when it's normally $500, $600, and it's over $1,000.
Yeah, it sucks. My daughter's
right.
Gonna be...
So it's just sort of the reality is that everyone's going to get hammered on prices. Trump, by the way, right now is more unpopular on inflation than Biden was.
Well, he's more unpopular on everything. He's the least popular president of our lifetime.
Biden's numbers on inflation were awful, and Trump's are worse right now. So I think we're headed for. I think this matters. I think it all matters, but I think Iran matters a lot. I think that, and with inflation, Iran, everything else, it's Trump just completely blowing off every promise he made to all those people that are the 7% that's a little wishy-washy in the middle. He completely lied to all those people, and it's completely obvious to everyone. And I think that it's going to have gigantic effects in November.
Somehow I don't think it's going to have an effect on our school board election today. I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm terrified that we're going to lose. We have 2 seats open, 2 great candidates, 2 women running. Both of them have 5 kids between them. And then the MAGA side has 2 men. One guy doesn't have kids, drives a dump truck. And the other guy is like a Republican hack who's run for everything, and his kids are older. And it's like, just on that, I feel like people, our board of education election often is, and many others are often determined by the senior citizens that live in town that are worried about their property taxes, which pisses me off so much. They have every right to vote. They have stake in it, skin in the game, because it's their taxes, but they don't have the skin in the game that people with kids in school do. And
what's interesting to me, though, is the fact that we're talking about national issues and you're worried about your school race
today.
Really gets something, which is that all of these issues have become nationalized.
Well, this one,
all these races have become nationalized. And you and I were talking before about the elections in DC that are coming up, where people, our big debate is like, do we want somebody to run for these offices who's going to handle city issues, or do we want someone to run for these offices who's going to prioritize challenging Trump? And that's a real debate happening in my town right now, where people are saying, like, no, you got to get out there and stick it to him. And it's kind of crazy to me. That I think that's nuts. I want my school board people to be worrying about the schools first, foremost, and fifth. But it's understandable given the way the things our country is going through right now.
What do you make of Trump's trip to China? It looked like he got the upper hand, got everything he wanted to get in that meeting. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no.
I
think people are overreading much from this.
I think it looks like he just went to hang out with him. It looks like he went and talked to Xi and had a good time and nothing.
And by the way, what he said about Taiwan, where he expressed ambiguity about it, is what American presidents have been doing forever. Did he do it inartfully? Did he sound stupid doing it? 100%. But it's also like American presidents have always been ambiguous about Taiwan, because that's been our policy since 1972 or something, 1973. there are legitimate questions about whether Trump really would defend Taiwan, and that, of course, is deeply concerning. But it didn't. This meeting had nothing on that. I think that what the meeting showed really was just how clueless and weird Trump is. But everybody knows this already. It's kind of baked in. And I don't think China got much out of it. And by the way, there's a really, I don't know what you call it, kind of racist thing that every time there's an interaction with China in American media, there's this thing like, oh, no, but they must have a hidden agenda. Or if you read, what they say in Chinese is different than what they say in English. And there's this very it's up there with the Chinese government always thinks in the long term. It's very weird. Like Americans, I don't think realize how much they see China through a frame that we impose on China. Things in China are not great. China's not filling right now America's role as the hegemon of the world. They're not really capable of it. And I think that we really are bad. Most American media is really bad at talking about the real position China's in and what happens in these meetings.
It's a really interesting perspective for a lot of reasons. I want to read more and learn more about China myself. I am extremely ignorant. But what
I have a rule of thumb. If someone says China thinks long term, immediately delete them from your feed.
Why is that so erroneous?
It's completely stupid and wrong. China during the communist era killed 55 million people in the Great Leap Forward. Was that long-term thinking? No.
Well, that's a long time ago. Currently speaking, the United States, you're talking about China. I could look at many other countries are much more reasonable in their outlook for the future on any number of issues because we live in a country that is decided by every quarterly capitalism, and every 2 years in our elections, everything seems to change, and the motivations aren't necessarily in America's interest. They're multinationals that lobby government and take power. Come on.
Right, but look at it this way. Saying that we are not long-term thinkers doesn't have anything to do with China, what their deal is. And, like a classic is like, oh, China is doing solar and everything else, and it's getting prepared for the next phase of energy. True. China also is absolutely destroying its environment. Long-term thinking? Not really. So like what I would tell people
I don't know why you're saying you know way more than I do, but I'm just going to push back. Why are you saying that they are not? It sounds like you're saying they're not invested in renewable energy way more than we are. They are still burning. They're still burning coal, too much coal, but they are definitely more interested in not only a cleaner environment, but more importantly, a more profitable economy by being the primary salespeople of things like renewable energies, battery, and other technology.
Their environment is way worse than ours. Their environmental record is horrendous.
I don't question that. I think that's
this is the problem with China thinks long term is it's essentialist nonsense.
I'm gonna bring on some Chinese expert to
please do. I would love to, and I will take them on because it's essentialist nonsense.
Arrogant.
It's like saying, here's a good example. Americans are totally freedom loving. Are we? We had slavery. We still have people turning over the Voting Rights Act, et cetera. Like it is a thing that exists. It exists in some parts of the culture in certain ways. But to make it this essentialist thing is kind of nonsense. And I would just argue that's bad no matter who you're doing it to.
All right. Those are all that's my list. I want to ask you about China. I think that was the last thing. So anything else that we need to discuss? Anything else that you're paying attention to, Bill, that is worth mentioning outside of, I don't know, the conversation around politics, fascism, the future of democracy, giant grifts?
Yeah. Well, by the way, I put that I was a straight STRAIT aficionado in the bottom, and I'm bummed you missed it.
Oh,
can you see the name?
No, I don't have name. I don't have the names up. I took them down. Right. Let me put it back up there. Sorry.
No, that's funny.
Right. Where is that? Straight aficionado? Is that what you said?
I did. So
what does that mean? Straight STRAIT. Yeah.
Yeah. The last thing I want to bring up is that I really do think that the House is certainly in by the way, Rod Dreher, there's a straight aficionado.
Oh,
Sorry.
What are you doing? The weave?
That's so the fact that Trump picked Paxton's backing Paxton, the fact that Peltola's winning in Alaska, it looks like that Sherrod Brown is really doing a great job in Ohio, that Plattner is somehow working it out in Maine. I think the chances of a Democratic Senate are now reasonably higher than 50%.
Wow.
And I think that people need to give money, get out there, bust their ass, do whatever they can, make sure we win the House and the Senate, because we live in a very, very different country January 21st next year if the government is no longer entirely in Republicans' hands.
Oh, my God. Imagine if both the House and Senate, I mean, just for the committee, just for the investigatory and oversight powers, I think you start there. But
Congress would say you cannot legally spend any of this money.
They would probably
– alone, just cutting Trump off from easy access to all these resources he's stolen right off the bat would make a big, big, big difference in what's happening.
Much more to talk about, but I got to go. You have to go. You're getting phone calls and texts. I hear them. Bill Boyle, always a pleasure. Go follow him right now on Blue Sky. And if he's in D.C., buy him a beer. He'll drink it.
Rock and roll, folks. Be good.
And get in good trouble. Bill B in D.C., everybody. There you go. Go say hi to him on the Blue Sky, especially. Follow him there if you're not already. I'll link to it in the show notes. And speaking of skies, said Blue Sky, I've got Sky Perryman as my guest tomorrow. I'll help explain this whole nonsense and what they're doing about it vis-a-vis the slush fund. And so you can watch that interview now. We caught up yesterday, but I'm not going to be able to talk to anybody today or be live today because of Ava's graduation. So it's a busy week here, and I appreciate your support. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Send me a message. Email me, standupwithpete@gmail.com. I love hearing what you like, don't like, and want to know more about with the show, how I can make it better and grow the community and make us stronger. Always happy to talk. And that is it for you today, and I will talk to you tomorrow. And hopefully see you at tomorrow night's hangout at 8 East. Bye.
To let in some light, you gotta stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You gotta stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear and all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. And even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense, and you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town, just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside. listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand